What's going on internet? The Black Hokage here, aka TVH, and to be honest, art is subjective. What you like might not be for me and vice versa. But the thing is, neither one of us are wrong because they're all just opinions. That's why you can't get too upset with professional critics. It's just one person's opinion. If you're interested in something, then go for it if you have the means for it and form your own opinion. There's been so many games that have gotten bad reviews that I like, so I thought I'd put together a video sharing some of them games that were poorly reviewed, but I still enjoyed. For a game to make it on this list, just know that I had to score below a 7 out of 10 on Metacritic, so basically games that are considered a 6 or below. Before I get into that list, feel free to head down into the comment section and share some games that critics hated, but you loved. One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Let's have a conversation. Fighter's Destiny 2 for the N64 is my shit. Now, I'm not sure how well this game holds up in 2018, but back in 1998, the 8-year-old me used to love this game. It had everything a young boy on a budget was looking for in his video game. It had bootleg Ginger Ryu, the posh Kate, the lean Hulk, Dixon, the edgy MySpace team, the racist American fighter who looked like Dennis Rodman named D-Dog, and Piedmon. Jokes aside, I love this game, man. Look, the characters may have been generic and tacky, but the gameplay was far from it. It's still one of the most unique fighters that I've played to this day. Instead of just doing the typical health bar thing, you had that plus a point system. You could score points by throwing your opponent, knocking them down, using a special move, and more. It played more like the way that martial artists fight in real life during competitions. The game wasn't about knowing a million combos and setups, but instead being tactical and being the first to earn 7 stars. Fighter's Destiny is one of the most unique fighters that I've ever played, and I wouldn't be mad if they brought it back in a more modern format. For my second pick, let's move on to something a bit more modern. I'm going with the Technomancer. Released in 2016, this gem flew under most people's radar because it reviewed poorly and because it was a budget title for Focus Home Interactive. That doesn't change the fact that they managed to craft a unique and interesting world for this RPG. Humans have moved to Mars in search of a better life, but the native creatures of Mars destroyed the first settlers' gear and it leaves them stranded without communication with Earth. Over the years, humans begin to identify as Martians, and they separate into various other factions. One of them is a group of mutated humans known as the Technomancers. They're humans who can use electrical powers. The game is like a poor man's Witcher 3 meets Static Shock. The action is decent, and it's a choose-your-own-adventure like BioWare games. The problem is, the Technomancer is a bit rough around the edges. If you're able to look past some of the glitches here and there, then you have a really interesting world here that's been crafted. How many of you guys remember 99 Nights? It was an early Xbox 360 game that had me hooked since I played the free demo. It didn't review well, but I didn't care. To sum this one up, 99 Nights was a Dynasty Warriors inspired action game with a medieval flair to it. From what I remember, there was a nation of knights at war with a nation of savage goblins, and that was their excuse to get out there and slaughter hundreds of thousands of beasts with various characters with different fighting styles. What made this one stand out is it was a beautiful game for its time, and it had way more enemies on screen compared to Dynasty Warriors, and plus, they didn't rehash the Romance of the Three Kingdoms for the 100th time. It had its own self-contained story. The game wasn't terribly unique, but I had fun with it, and I wouldn't mind if they brought it back. Sue me. I can never identify myself as a Sonic fan, but for every 12 Sonic games that release, I guess I might find one that I like. I mean, I do remember enjoying Sonic Heroes back in the day. This one was different because it put teamwork above anything else, and it had multiple teams and storylines. There were 3-man teams, and each character on the team played a role. Sonic would zip through certain sections in the level, Tails help you reach higher points and hidden items, and Knuckles would smash shit when necessary. The icing on the cake is when you build up enough energy, you do this cool team special attack that would destroy anything on the screen. Seeing all these characters working together and interacting with one another was like some type of Sonic cinematic universe when I was younger. I'm sure if I go back today and I play it now, the camera is absolutely terrible, but I won't because I'm done ruining childhood memories. If you follow me on Twitch, then you know a few months ago, I did a full playthrough of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, and what I found is that game is not as good as I remember. Actually, I would call it buggy trash, so I won't be returning to any more old Sonic games anytime soon. I mean, just let me have my nostalgia. Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects is criminally underrated. Forget what the critics said, I love this game and it deserves a sequel. If you're unfamiliar, Marvel Nemesis was an arena fighting game, something similar to Power Stone, starring various Marvel heroes and villains fighting against a new comic book threat, which I believe was exclusive to the game at the time, called The Imperfects. I love this game so much that I owned it on the GameCube and the PSP. You can make Wolverine throw hands with Doctor Doom, the Hulk with the Thing. It was a nerd's dream come true. Not to mention that there was an original storyline here that tied everything together. The best part is each hero played correctly. This was a 3D arena fighter where the environment played a role in the combat. Only characters like the Hulk could lift up cars and throw them, while characters like Daredevil had an option to interact with the environment in a more acrobatic way. It was a little rough around the edges, but a sequel could clean that up, and online play? Fire! For the longest, anime fans were treated to a terrible string of Dragon Ball games. If you own a PlayStation 1, then you know about some of them shitty Dragon Ball games that I'm talking about. Then 2002 rolled around and we got Dragon Ball Z Budokai. As Dragon Ball fans, and most will tell you that this was the turning point for Dragon Ball games. But back then, the media wasn't a big fan of this game. It didn't get terrible reviews, but they also weren't glowing either. I don't care. I feel like reviewers missed the point on this one. The Budokai series was the first that we ever came close to feeling like we were in control of a real Super Saiyan. And to me, that's all that mattered. I wasn't looking for some deep, intricate fighter. I wanted to feel like Vegeta. I wanted to feel like Trunks. And I wanted to destroy someone with a giant ki blast. The game accomplished that and more. Put some clout on Budokai's name. Star Fox Adventures is one of those games that you'll find people either hated or they loved it. Most people hated it because it wasn't what they wanted. Another on-rail Star Fox shooter. Once you take a step back and you take the game for what it is, here you have a solid action-adventure game. Was it a Zelda clone? Sure, but it was a damn good one with some R-Wing sections as well. Also, let's not act like Star Fox Adventures wasn't one of the best looking GameCube games. It still looks pretty good to this day thanks to the wide palette of colors they used. Was the day and night cycle pointless? Sure. Was your dinosaur companion an idiot? Yep. But every game has flaws and the ones in this game aren't that bad. I think people judge this game way harder than it needed to be because it wasn't a direct sequel to Star Fox 64. Honestly, listen, Star Fox Adventures is better than Star Fox Zero for the Wii U. Yeah, I said it. Ready to Rumble was a classic, but the sequel didn't get the best reviews when it dropped for the GameCube and PS2. I'm not sure why either too, because it was pretty much the first game, but with more. Maybe people took the series too seriously or something, but Ready to Rumble was silly fun in my opinion. What other fighting game could you make Michael Jackson fight Bill Clinton? What other fighting game could you make Hillary Clinton fight Shaq? Each character on the roster had a unique fighting style too. I mean, it was a boxing game, but it was an arcade game first. I remember they had this kung fu boxer in the game that made no sense when you think about it, but the game was still fun. I feel like Ready to Rumble would prosper in 2018 if it had a character creator and online, and it was a downloadable title for only like $20. There's nothing I love more than a Star Wars game that gives a different perspective of the Star Wars universe. That's exactly what the poorly received Star Wars Bounty Hunter did. You weren't playing as a Jedi or a Sith or doing no silly pod racing, but instead, you were being a badass bounty hunter named Jango Fett. I enjoyed this game for two reasons: the story and the level design. Combat wasn't the best. It often involved you just spamming your laser blaster and a flamethrower, but I feel like level design made up for that average combat. Levels all looked different and verticality played a big role in all of them. Jango had a jetpack and that meant that you could fly all throughout these wide open levels kicking ass. The controls could have been better and the side missions were pointless, but the main chunk of the game was very entertaining because the story takes place between episode 1 and 2. It's a prequel that actually ties into the Clone Wars. NBA 07 for the PSP reviewed poorly, but it will forever be one of my favorite sports games of all time. Why? Because it was broken and I'm a troll, that's why. NBA 07 was dope because it was a portable basketball game that featured online play. This game was doing the 2K camera and shot meter before 2K, at least I think they were. Online play is when I found out who Joe Johnson was. I would never forget the day that I hopped online thinking I was going to destroy this dude who picked the Atlanta Hawks because I had my Wizards, and this was back during the Gilbert Arenas, Antoine Jamison, and Coron Butler days of the Wizards. Boy, was I wrong. I found out the hard way who Joe Johnson was. In 4 quarters, this man did not miss a single open shot from the three-point line. He got nothing but perfect green releases, and I thought to myself, either this guy is amazing at this game or he knows something that I don't. So I picked the Hawks in my very next online match and passed the ball to Joe Johnson on the first play and made the easiest three-pointer that I've ever made in my life. I put up 60 points my first time playing him online. After that, all I ever did was pass the ball to Joe Johnson. I mean, the shot meter was so broken in the game for him. It was so easy to score. I mean, Joe Johnson was nice back then, but he wasn't that nice. I didn't care. I love the exploit. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you'll never miss another video. Also, consider pledging my Patreon. It helps keep the lights on. There's a link in the description box below. Peace.